Our exhibit is about the ghettos of the Holocaust, and the ghettos were the first step of Hitler's plan of complete isolation and annihilation of the Jews.
Over here, it talks about the people who went to the ghettos, which was mostly whoever Adolf Hitler hated since his life. This diagram right here represents the color of the inhabitants of the ghetto, and an example would be Jews would have to wear yellow wristbands on their hands for Nazi soldiers to know who they were. Over here are the badges the Jews had to wear on their clothing, so people in the streets knew they were a Jew, and so they could be more rude to them. An example would be in Slovakia, they had to wear the yellow Star of David, outlined in blue, on all of their clothing. It was kind of like they were being branded into who they were.
The ghettos were usually surrounded by a high wall topped with barbed wire. When you got there, you had to live in an apartment. Each apartment could contain 4 to 5 families. In each apartment, there was usually a couple beds, a couple chairs, a light bulb, and a sink. While you were in the ghetto, you were not treated very well. There were very little rights and privileges. One of those was you could not use public streets. You had to use special bridges like the one up in the picture up there. Also, there were strict laws about curfew and strict laws about escaping. If you were caught escaping, you could be sentenced to death.
Life in the ghetto was unbearable. The most common problem they had was overcrowding, and it was also extremely filthy. So with those conditions mixed together, diseases spread easily. And while they were in the ghettos, the Germans purposely tried to starve them so that they would be too weak to fight against the Nazis and try to escape the ghettos. And so they gave them ration cards that only allowed them 300 calories a day.
And to give you an idea of how much 300 calories is in our world today, it would be like 6 chicken nuggets from McDonald's or 1 cup of tomato soup from Panera.
And since the Jews were isolated from the rest of the outside world, they had to find a way to cope with that. So many families sent small children through holes in the walls surrounding the ghettos, and they would go steal food and other items from stores outside of the ghetto.
And the last step of the ghetto was the liquidation process, which consisted of deportations. They first started these deportations by taking volunteers, but after the inhabitants started figuring out what was going on, the volunteers stopped coming, and they were forced to evacuate their apartments, and they blocked all streets, and they brought them to the trains. The trains were either cattle cars or freight cars like these up here, and then the Jews and other people were crammed in so tightly there was no room to sit. They were given no food or water for the whole 3-day journey, and many who were strong enough to survive the hardships of the ghetto died of either suffocation or starvation on the ride to the concentration camp.